Well Livestrong quilt in 20 inches by 20 inches, and it is something that teaches you how to foundation paper piece really tiny. All right, so so that's what we're working on. This is our last quilt block of this sew along, so let's go ahead and get started with that. So this last week we made the strength quilt block in the 30-inch square quilt block, which is part of a sampler quilt for the Live Well Livestrong quilt pattern. So quilt pattern is available at stitchesquilting.com, and I have got live videos and tutorials and things to help you along the way. So let's go ahead. So this is what we're making. So we're making our strength quilt block just like this, but we are doing it actually with foundation paper piecing. So I want to show you how I print off some of my foundation paper piecing patterns. So I have here, well, I could show you the entire set. This is what the entire, hi Delinda, the entire foundation paper piecing portion of the Live Well Livestrong quilt looks like. And right now this PDF comes free for you if you purchase the Live Well Livestrong quilt pattern, which is right here, and at stitchesquilting.com. But what you do is you print all of it off on newsprint paper, and you can print it color or black and white, but black and white works great. So I am going to show you what the strength quilt block pages look like. So let me go ahead and pull this up. Here is the strength quilt block print. These are sheets that are printed off in color, so it kind of gives you a better idea of how to place your colors on there. But what I usually do is not print it off in color. I print it off in black and white because that saves printer ink, and I'm all about saving printer ink, right? And then what you want to do is take your quilt block and go ahead and mark with a pencil on your newsprint paper the different colors of fabric that you're wanting to use on the different pieces of the blocks. So tell me where you're from. I am in Salt Lake City, Utah, and so we're just kind of going over some foundation paper piecing tips and tricks for whatever type of foundation paper piecing you might want to use. So these are the pages that you're going to need for your strength quilt block. So you need 3 pages there. And then this final page right here, I went ahead and printed off in color, but this is not for foundation paper piecing. This scale of the size is. This is a page that's just there to help you with the placement and the organization of the quilt blocks. So let's go ahead and get started on some of this. I want to review something real fast. Just as we did this last week, you are going to have 3 quilt blocks that you're building into the strength quilt block. First of all, the center quilt block, and there's just one of those. And then there are 4 of this quilt block right here. It's kind of like a 4-patch with 2 half square triangles and 2 solid squares. Okay, so you need 4 of those. Hi Catherine, how are you? And then you need 4 of these. That is the angled quilt block. So where you're kind of getting that strength star shape that are going on there. So you need 4 of these. So you can see that's what you need. So these are the actual sizes in the foundation paper piecing, in the regular 30-inch size quilt blocks. But I'm going to show you what it looks like with foundation paper piecing. So we have this section right here, and that is what you're going to use this section right here for. And you can see on here, it tells you to start in the center, which is that little red square. You can see that right in the middle. And that is going to be A1. And then I know I'm going to be adding denim, which is A2. So, and you can see I've got red, denim, blueberry, and teal right here. Hi, Catherine in Northern Florida. It's good to see you. So what I have done is I have placed on the back side of my foundation paper piecing paper that's printed on newsprint, and we've got the red, because red is in the center. The next one down is the denim fabric, so I'm going to put those right sides together, and I just use really teeny tiny pins as we're doing foundation paper piecing, because I feel like it doesn't turn the paper too much, and I don't get much of a turn on it. So that's definitely a good tip. let's switch the camera. And so what I'm going to do is actually go ahead and stitch right along the stitching line between A1 and A2. And I'm going to just go ahead and stitch on that dashed line right here. And then you'll kind of see what I've got going on. So there we go. So I just stitched between A1, oops, and A2. I've got some long threads hanging out there. And you can see my stitch line. I'm using a 2.0. Hi, Bernadette. Hello, Tuluki. I hope I said you're Taliki. In Finland. It's so nice to meet you. I'm in Salt Lake City, Utah. So you can see I've stitched this with a tiny stitch length, which is about a 2.0 on my Husqvarna sewing machine. So we're going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to take out the small pin. You can see here's my paper on the back. So we're foundation paper piecing. So we're stitching on top of the paper. I'm going to turn this over and I am going to go ahead and press this open. And, oh, my little heater turned off. So but it's warm enough. It's just, it times off its heat. Now I'm going to flip over this piece of paper and I'm going to use this side to trim my edges. So you can see I went ahead and actually, let's go ahead and stitch on one more of these. So here's another little section for the denim of that little triangle right there. I'm going to go ahead and stitch on that one too. So I'm going to lay this right sides together on the back of the paper, and that rhymes. So here we go. Hi, Victor. How are you? It's so good to see you. And I'm going to stitch along the dotted line on the top of the paper with my fabric right sides together on the back of the paper. So right sides together on the back of the paper, I can stick a small pin in it to just kind of make sure that things don't shift around. And I'm going to go ahead and stitch with my tiny stitching for the foundation paper piecing. So these are teeny tiny stitches that are just perforating the paper just ever so slightly. Let's go ahead and take the pin out. Let's flip this over. You can see that. And let's go ahead and press that into place. I'm going to show you how you then go and you trim this. So let's bring this over here. And I am going to fold my paper on this stitching line. I'm going to use my little pattern here. Any kind of postcard, any kind of anything. And you fold your paper back. And now, so that's where my next stitch line is going to be. And I'm going to fold my paper back and I'm going to trim off the excess fabrics. So let's go ahead and bring this down. I'm going to grab my small ruler and I'm going to just go ahead and trim this. So this is the strength quilt block that is foundation paper pieced for the Live Well, Live Strong quilt. So you can see that right there. So it looks just really nice. I can continue to build this out, but I have already done this for you. So you can see here is another piece of this, the strength quilt block right here. And just to speed up time for the video, I've gone ahead and I've stitched everything, including this very last piece. Okay, so you can see I've stitched everything on there and you just keep building it out as it goes. So I'm going to go ahead and press this last one. I did right sides together. I'm using solid fabrics. I stitched on top of the paper. We're going to press this open and now I'm going to trim my quilt block down. So let's go ahead and look at this. Let's flip it over. What I've done is all of the dashed lines that you're working with, those are your stitching lines. The solid lines around the outside of the block are the blocks that are the solid lines that you trim your fabric on. Okay, so let's go ahead and bring my ruler right here and I'm going to go ahead and just trim this paper and just take that away. I'm going to trim this side and you're going to see that we're going to have this foundation paper pieced portion, the center of the strength quilt block, then complete. Okay, so and when you trim it, just everything, one really great thing about foundation paper piece. Has anybody done foundation paper piecing? So you can see just how absolutely perfect this quilt block is. Let's bring it over here and let's press it just a little bit more. So this is for the strength quilt block for the Live Well, Live Strong quilt. It is a sampler quilt with lots of different quilt blocks in it. Now, you can see this is for the full-size quilt. This is for the foundation paper pieced quilt, okay? So this one is on the quilt that's hanging behind me. This right here is the foundation paper piece. So you can see that we've just made the center section of the strength quilt block right here. Each one of these quilt blocks, there's 26 different skill building quilt blocks. This is a foundation paper piecing version. And they're skill building. It's a sampler quilt, and it helps you, and each one of the topics are about health and wellness, okay? So you can see right here what we're building is this large strength quilt block right there. Okay, now, our other units that we need, so I went ahead and at the beginning of the video, you need this unit right here. It's almost like a braid. This unit right here. So let's go ahead and review that. I'm going to show you, I have already made 2 of these. So you can see this is the section right here that matches this section. So you can see that. I'm just taking those and foundation paper piecing that. One moment. And here is our second section. So you need 4 of these and 4 of these and your center section to make the strength quilt block. It actually goes really pretty quickly. So let me go ahead and review. So these are actually sewn into 2 sections. So let me go ahead and let's bring this down a little bit so you can see it in the camera. Let me go ahead and move this over and move this right here so you can see a little bit of this one right here. Okay, so what we're going to do, I have got some other pieces of mine right here. So what we're doing is I've already got this one started. We have this right here. So let's go ahead and maybe turn this around so it goes like that. So I'm in the process of making these 2 sections, all right? So you can see right here I pieced this together with foundation paper piecing. We're going to add this last section of fabric. So it's very, very simple. I've got right here navy and aquamarine. Okay, when you're pressing for foundation paper piecing, hi Amanda, it's so good to see you. Hi Bernadette, hi Victor. Yes, Victor, it's a great skill to build in quilting because you're able to really, so I'm going to take this aquamarine fabric. I've got a couple threads on here because I've been stitching and sewing all of these, but I'm going to just use this scrap. And that's one of the great things about foundation paper piecing is you can use the smallest of fabrics. So on here, this has J1, J2, J3. So we're going to go ahead and put these together. I'm going to put my last piece on here. So you can see I've got my aqua right here. And this is like an aquamarine shade. I'm going to go ahead and put these right sides together on the back of the paper. Turn it around. We can stick a pin in it so that we can feel like real steady and sure that this is all coming together. And really with the strength quilt block, you're just repeating yourself with the different units that you need. You need 1 piece, 4 of these, and 4 of these. All right, let's go ahead so that you can see I've stitched that with a really small stitching length. It's just slightly perforated the paper. I'm going to take my pin out, open this up, and we're going to press it. And you want to use a dry iron without any liquid or starch in it. Okay, so we're making this unit right here. I'm going to bring this over. Let me go ahead and lift that up. I'm using a small pressing mat. I'm going to flip it on this side, and we are going to go ahead and trim right along there, and we're going to trim on this outside. So now our section is actually perfect. Can you see that? Now, where did I just put my other little section? Oh, here it is, navy blue. Oh, no, I have 2 of these. That is so funny. Okay, so now we're going to put our 2 sections right sides together. When I've written the pattern for you, you have a stitching line for your 1/4 inch seam allowances, okay? So we went ahead and we trimmed on that solid fabric. I'm going to match my center points together. So I'm going to give that a match, and I'm going to kind of nest my seams. I'm going to make sure that this is squarely fitting on here, and I'm going to stick a pin in it. So just kind of get a little pin in there so that things don't shift as you're sewing. I definitely like to print on just basic newsprint paper. If you're working with just Xerox paper through a copy machine, things can get a little bit too slick under your sewing machine. So I like the newsprint paper, and it's readily available, and I just print it right through my printer. I don't have any problems with it, whether it's a laser jet or whether it's a laser printer, an inkjet or a laser printer. Take out those pins. Let's see if my seams match. Look at how perfect that is. So let's go ahead, and you can see it's absolutely perfect, these 2 blocks. And that's one really great thing about foundation paper piecing, is that you just have such nice clean blocks. I go ahead, and sometimes they might want to fold back open. I go ahead and press these, and then very often while they're warm, I go ahead and place it underneath a ruler, an acrylic ruler, and I just set it to the side for it to cool nice and flat. Okay, let's go back to this section right here. And we are going to, hold on for 1 second. Here is the section that we are going to work on right here. So we've got this one right here. I have another completed section. Did I drop it on the floor? It's right here. Hold on for 1 second. Oh, there it is right here. Okay, so same thing with this, with this quilt block right here. These match together to give you that V-shaped look. So you need that in the strength quilt block, okay? So we're just going to put these right sides together. We want our points to match. And that's one of the great things about foundation paper piecing, is if you are lining everything up, your points are going to match pretty perfectly. You got to be careful. So what I'm going to do is, when I've set these up right sides together, I'm going to feel that that seam is matching up. And I'm going to look at it carefully. I now have like a little lump that I have to sew over. So I'm going to just pin right on here, but I'm not going to pin through my stitching lines. So let me go ahead and show you this here. So I have this pinned, but my dashed line is where that quarter inch seam allowance is, and I don't want to stick my pin through there because I'd like to just kind of keep my pins in there. And you can see the more you pin, I like using these small pins. It kind of mutates your paper a little bit. Let's make sure this one is matched up. You can pin however you feel like is working for you. And I can feel that those seams are nested right. Okay, let's go ahead and take this through the sewing machine at our quarter inch seam. I could sew this on either side because that quarter inch seam is showing up. So let's on both sides, and I can make sure that everything is square. Let's go ahead and sew this once again at that really small stitch length. So it's perforating a little hole in the paper. Once you construct this, you don't want to pull your paper off, okay, when you have your little block unit that looks like a perfect match. Once again, we're going to press it with dry heat, no starch, no anything, because the moisture of the iron will make your paper mutate. I can't think of the right word. So this quilt block in the Live Well Live Strong quilt is all about strength and how we build strength and resilience in our lives. So this is the strength quilt block right here. So that is the one that we're working on. Now, if you can see here, this is what we will do to go ahead and construct this, because, hold on for just one moment, I have a guide for you on putting together your quilt blocks. So once again, you are going to have 4 of these ones made, 4 of these ones made. Oh dear, I sewed something backwards here, but that's okay, I can unpick. In fact, I'll show you how I unpick with paper piecing. And then you're going to have 1 of these, all right? So what we are going to do is then we're going to lay out, according to our pattern, what this looks like. So we've got this in the center and these right here. And then this is what we would go ahead and sew. Okay, I'm going to show you. I sewed this wrong, you guys. That's so crazy. My blueberry should be down here. So I'm going to show you how I unpick with my foundation paper piecing, because that's a good thing to learn, is when you sew something backwards. I should have sewed on this side, not that side. I dropped my seam ripper on the floor, so I picked it up. So what we're going to do is we're going to just very carefully open this up, and we're going to unstitch right here. And the paper will be perforated, but it shouldn't rip. If you happen to rip your newsprint paper, you can just use regular Scotch tape, And when you tape it back together, if you need to, then you can iron and press it and everything will be just fine. So you can see here, we're going ahead and we're taking this out. So, and it's just as easy as can be, and then you can stitch that back together. So once again, remember, this is like a 9-patch, this strength quilt block. All you're going to do is sew these together according to the pattern that is laid out for you in the instructions for the foundation paper piecing. So the pattern comes for the original quilt, 60 by 60 inches, the negative space quilt that is behind me. I will show you guys that one. And it also comes in a bed runner that you can lay at the foot of your bed. It comes in 4 different layouts. You have foundation paper piecing, the classic 60 by 60, and then the negative space version. Okay, so this is, instead of me sewing on this side, I should have sewed on this other side. So you can see I would just put these right sides together and match those up. Okay, so that is how you go ahead and you put these together. You need 4 of these, and your 1 centerpiece. And you will have your strength quilt block completely sewn together. I'm going to come back on Friday. Okay, let's go ahead and switch the camera. I'm going to come back on Friday for you guys. I can put this right side together as I talk. And I get my vaccine on Friday at 11:30. So usually I come on live every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday for quilting tutorials. And when I do that, I come on at noon. But Friday, I get my vaccine at 11:30. And so I am going to actually do the Friday live at 10 o'clock in the morning. So at 10 o'clock in the morning, I'll do that live. And then I'll run off and go get my vaccine. So anyways, remember, we are making the strength quilt block this week. And we're working on building strength in our lives and building resilience. And this is the strength quilt block right here. There are 26 quilt blocks. The version we're working on today is for the foundation paper piecing. When you put together your foundation paper piecing, you don't want to take the paper out of your quilt blocks until your quilt is completely assembled. So this is completely assembled, and next week we will start layering our quilts for the foundation paper piecing version. We will layer our quilts, and I'll show you how to put together all your thick version and for the negative space. So that's what we're going to start working on for all of our other things, is different piecing things as we piece together our tops. Then we'll work on quilting our tops. You guys, it's so good to see you. I will see you again on Friday, Mountain Standard Time. I'm in Salt Lake City, Utah at 10 a.m. because I'm getting my vaccine. I don't know what kind of vaccine I'm getting. There's 3 different ones out there, but I'm getting my vaccine on Friday. So I can't wait to see you guys. I hope all of you guys are staying safe, stay strong, stay resilient, and hang in there. And I can't wait to see you on Friday at 10 a.m. Have a great one, you guys. I will come back and we will put together the rest of the strength quilt.